Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun with Benzion. Today's daf is the Nedarim daf Lamed Daled. I'm going to jump to the end of today's daf. The Gemara has a unique case. The Gemara says, Ba minei, the fourth line of Lamed Daled, is a very short daf. Ba minei Rav Chia bar Avi mirava. He asked Rava the following question: Kikari alechem nasalo matano mahu. He says, the loaf of bread that I own, my loaf of bread is aser bahana for you. Right? That was his lashon. Kikari, my loaf, is also on you. But naslo matana. Then after he said that, he gave him the loaf of bread as a present. Mahu. Could this person, the recipient of this gift, could he benefit from the loaf of bread? Kikari Amarla. What did he stress over here? My loaf of bread. Only when it belongs to me, it's aser. But if it doesn't belong to me, I gave it to you. You know I have full ownership over it. It's not aser. Al dima alecha Amarla. The reason he added the word alecha shavise hektish. I always made it hektish even after I gave it to you. So the Gemara Rava answered, I'm like, Pshita dafakav diyav matana aser. Alecha is the most important lashon over there. And he meant to include its aser even if you give the matana. The Gemara leaves off, Lamadal on the base ends off. The Gemara says maybe Rava is not really true. Maybe, right, the reason he said kikari, right, is to stress that really if I gave it to you matana, it would be. The reason I said kikari is because I invited you over to my house for a meal. So then when you come to my house for a meal, so whatever food is on my table, and I allow you to I invite you to my house to eat the meal, I can't go, if you get invited to someone's house, you can't go and take the food home. You're not allowed to go and pocket some food and put it in your pocket and take it home, because at the end of the day, you're invited to the guy's house to eat with him at his table. So that's why he said kikari alecha, that when you come to my house, right, and it's kikari, because it still belongs to me, you have no right to take it. You have rishus. You have rishus to eat it, but you don't have shalo. You don't have the bias over the physical object. So therefore, I said, when it's still in my ownership, then you can't benefit from it. But if I gave it to matana, when you have the shalo, you have the physical ownership, then you could, right? And that's why he said kikari. If it's not my kikar, then it would be mutter to you because now it belongs to you. So you see from the Gemara at this point. This sugya goes on to Daf Lamed Hey. We'll talk more about the sugya tomorrow, but you see from this Gemara a very important point. There's a big question among the Achronim for certain mitzvahs where you need to have shelo, you need to have bilas. One of the mitzvahs is the mitzvah of matzah, eating matzah on the first night of Pesach. The Gemara in Sukkah on Daf Lamed Hey says matzaschem. The Gemara in the Gzera Shava of Ariso Seichem, matzos, I think. We learn out there's a couple of mitzvahs that you need to have physical ownership of the object to be yotzei. A lulav on the first day, right? Mitzvah of challah only applies if you own the isa, if you own the dough. And matzah also has to be something that you own. The Gemara says it has to be something that you own. So if you don't own the matzah, you can't be yotzei the mitzvah. So what happens if the first night of Pesach you're invited to somebody's house, right? For the night of Seder Pesach, the Lel Seder, the night of the Seder on Pesach. The mitzvah of matzah only applies on the first night. The rest of Pesach, you could eat matzah. Maybe according to the Gra, you get a mitzvah, some sort of mitzvah. But the only chiyuv is to eat it the first night of Pesach. But you have to own it. We see from the Gra, so you have to own it. So what if I'm invited to someone's house, right? And he puts out matzah on the table, or he breaks his matzahs and he gives it to me without saying anything. Am I yotzei the mitzvah of matzah? So it's clear from our Gemara that you're not going to yotzei the mitzvah of matzah. That's the Gemara stressing over here, that if I invite someone to my house, even though you have rishus to eat it, but you own it. It's called kikari. It's still my loaf of bread, and that's why the nether applies, according to the Maskana at this point in the Gemara. It applies because it's still my loaf of bread. It doesn't belong to you, right? If you steal it, also you have rishus, you have domain, you can control over the object, but it doesn't belong to you. It's not shalo. It doesn't belong to you. So that's the chiddush of the Gemara over here, that, and the Gemara obviously didn't think that in the Havim. The maskana of the Gemara at this point seems to be that if you get invited to someone's house, you don't own the matzah, and he puts it on the table. You're not yotzei the mitzvah of matzah on the first night of Pesach. What is the way of doing this? So really, technically, you should bring your own matzah. That's what I did. I got invited. I think I invited myself actually to my Rosh Hashiva's house for for a little Seder. I was in before I got married. I was only in Israel one time for Pesach. I decided that I'm gonna have a holy Pesach, Kadosh, not go back to America and rely on all the kulas. And who knows if you can trust Shmura matzah in America? It's not in a chabura. It's shatzer matzah. Who knows if you can trust? Probably chametz in there. They probably put, they probably mix it with bread to save money. You can't trust it over there. So, but I did buy my own matzah. I went with two friends. They were cheap, and they decided not to buy their own matzah. I didn't bring my own matzah because of this halacha. I brought my own matzah because I felt it was wrong. And the Rosh Hashiva was I didn't have a lot of money himself. Probably I still didn't have a lot of money himself. Most Rosh Hashivas are very poor. I don't want to take matzah from him. I had a little bit of money in the bank. I'll buy my own matzahs, and I'll bring my own. Oh, why am I buying my own matzah? I'll buy my own matzah. I can bring it. I brought my big box of matzah with me. I ate from my own matzah, not because of this Gemara, but because I felt it was the right thing to do, not to take from someone who's poor when he really. Shmur matzah is very expensive. He had a big family. He had 14 kids. So to take matzah from him, shmura matzah, everyone knows how expensive it is, especially the ones here in Israel where they do chabura and they rent out the entire place themselves. It's really expensive. I felt wrong taking it, especially the first night of Pesach. You want to be machmir, have a lot of the shiurim, kibetza for the double kibetza for the first time eating, a double kibetza for the afikomen. You want to make sure you have enough matzah to enjoy the meal also, because the only thing that tastes good on Pesach is the matzah with the the dips. So it's a cracker, right? You put it in dips. So that's the only thing that you could really eat on Pesach, because all the food, doesn't taste so good. So especially if you don't eat gebrux. So that's why I'm happy now after learning this Gemara. That technically I was Yossi the Mitzvah. My friends, I don't know. They didn't ask. I mean, he gave them the matzah. Did he have in mind that he's machna it to them? Even if he had in mind, does that help? Maybe he have to actually give it to them a present. Say, here, I'm giving you a present. Just putting it on the table, or breaking his own matzahs and giving them pieces. Now Yossi. And now I'm sure Rosh Hashiva was aware of this Gemara. Maybe he had in mind to give it to them. I didn't realize that at any time he said to them, I'm giving you as a present. But technically, the halacha should be they're not Yossi the mitzvah of matzah, unless he actually said, I'm giving to you matzah to you as a present. And even then, right, if you force someone to give you a present, that's like an issue of lo sachmod, right? You force someone to sell you something, even if you give them money, right? The Gemara in Bava Metzia says you're over in lo sachmod, right? And so when you come to someone's house and the person has very little shmura matzah, and basically you're forcing him to give you shmura matzah, even if he thinks he really wants to give to you, do you really give it to b'leif shalom? If he says, I'm giving it to you as a present, that's one thing. He has in mind, it has to be whether he really has Gemiras Das, that he really wants to give it to as a present. Doubtful. I feel bad for my other friends. They weren't Yotze. Anyway, that's the conclusion of this Gemara. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next one.